Hello everybody and welcome back to Grimdork Miniatures. Today in our second episode of the Beginner Series we'll embark on a journey into the vibrant world of painting the Bad Moons clan for Warhammer 40k. Known for their love of teeth and bright yellow armor, these orcs bring both a unique challenge and a chance to have models that really shine in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. From their armor to their weaponry, everything about the Bad Moons screams extravagance and intimidation. In this video, we'll explore my methods to capture the essence of the Bad Moons on your minis, and delve into painting a desaturated orc skin, but most importantly, their distinctive yellow armor with a ton of weathering to show battle-worn equipment, and give you those eye-catching details that make your model really stand out on the tabletop. Whether you're a seasoned painter looking for a new scheme, or a beginner eager to tackle this flashy faction, this guide should be easy to replicate and quick to complete. All in all, spending just under 2 hours on this paint job. Please join me as we bring these over-the-top orcs to life with a couple brushes and a bit of orky ingenuity. Now to get us rolling, we're going to start with a base of Ork Flesh from GW. Typically with my orcs, depending if I want to go with a little bit more desaturated or a little bit more vibrant skin, I typically will start off with an Ork Flesh. It's just a solid base tone to get us going. Along the same lines as our last tutorial, we're going to use a Speed Paint 2.0 Moonlight Coral for this one, thinned down about 3:1 with Speed Paint Medium in order to get the realistic and kind of toned down effect of our green skin that we're going for here. As with before, we're going to target the deepest recesses inside the muscle groups, as well as the underside of each muscle, just to tone down that green and allow a nice realistic and warm tone underneath. Now in the intro I said we were going for more desaturated orc here. With the Bad Moons clan, this is going to allow us to get away with this. Right now, definitely looks super vibrant, super purple, super green, but the next couple steps are really going to wash our color palette out, introduce more flesh tones and that sort of thing. We'll see that come out as we hit our first highlight step. And in that step we're going to use Nurgling Green. A nice pale green, still has a little bit of vibrancy to it, but definitely a lot knocked back from the Ork Flesh. With this Nurgling Green, we're going to mix it about 1 part water to about 2 parts paint, just to allow it to flow off the brush a little bit easier. In doing this, we're going to target about the top 2/3 of each muscle grouping, as well as any raised edges, especially on the face, as we begin to build our highlights up. Now with our first layer of highlights done, we're going to go ahead and introduce Flayed One Flesh to continue to wash out our tones a little bit. We're going to mix that about 50-50 with Nurgling Green, then same as before, about 2 parts paint to 1 part water. And with this, we're just going to hit just slightly less of the skin, try to center it around the top about 1/3 of each muscle grouping, the top lines of each face, just to really define it. And the reason I prefer this pale skin tone for the Bad Moons is they really don't need the bright punchy tones that like the Goths do. Their yellow armor is going to do a lot of the talking for this model and really going to allow it to stand out on its own without having to have this kind of secondary punch color. For our last layer of highlights, we're going to go with just a 2:1 mix of water to Flayed One Flesh, targeting just the corners of the face as well as the very tops of each muscle group to really just define where the sun and the light source is going to be impacting our model. That's going to mark the end of our pale skin tone. As you're going to see in the next couple steps, it's really going to set us apart from our bright punchy yellow armor. We are also going to start with Averland Sunset to go ahead and base coat your shoulder pads, the face mask, as well as the power claw. After about 3 to 4 coats of our yellow, we finally get this result. And we're going to go ahead and move into our secondary armor color, which is, for me, going to be purple. This isn't necessarily a standard Bad Moons color, but I think it contrasts super well against the yellow. And for this, we're going to use Xarius Purple to go ahead and base coat all the purple details. Might seem a little odd to kind of be jumping back and forth between the yellow and the purple here, but trust me, here in a couple of steps you're going to see exactly why. We're going to start to really blend our colors in together, as well as use unifying shadow colors and different shades. And to do that, we're going to start off with Fire Drake. It's a Speed Paint 2.0, similar as we did for the skin. We're going to mix this about 3 to 1 with Speed Paint Medium, and we're just going to start using this as a glaze. In my opinion, speed paints are a great resource to start off glazing. For this, we're going to target about the bottom half of each of these yellow panels. Wherever shadows are going to form, gives a really natural shadow color that still packs a bunch of vibrancy in without dulling out your colors. Now we'll begin our second layer of shading, and that's going to be with Burnish Red. For this, you can do a 4 to 1 mix of this to Speed Paint Medium, and with that, we're going to be targeting about the lowest 20% of each armor panel, as well as in the cracks, crevices, really trying to target all of the deepest recesses with this one. And also make sure you're hitting your purple details. We're going to shade all of these similarly, that way we all have a unifying shade color with our armor. Alright, with the shading done, we're going to move over to a highlight, Flash Gets Yellow, that we are going to apply with a sponge. To do this, we're going to go ahead and just target the top bits of each of the yellow armor. Wanting to do this kind of create like chip looks, create more texture, and drive up the vibrancy once again, make it a little bit brighter. Now that we have these chips and weathering done for our yellow, let's go ahead and move on to the purple. And to do that, we're going to use T'Challa Lilac and do it in a very similar method, just targeting all of our purple details, sponging a little bit onto the tops of each one, just to create little scratches, little dots, little lines, a little bit of texture, as well as highlights. Now I said we were going to do a bunch of weathering for this armor, so let's start that off with a Rhinox hide through a dry brush. To do this, we're going to get a little bit on the dry brush. I'm going to go ahead and wipe off the majority of it. I would prefer onto a dry palette, but paper towel works as well. It just gives you a little less control. And we're just going to go ahead and stipple this and do a light dry brush onto the lower bits of each armor panel, as well as just kind of lightly stipple it onto the tops just to simulate some more chips. Next, we're going to move on to Cygor Brown. Similar method, just use this over top the Rhinox hide, just in slightly lower amounts, just to continue that weathering. And there we have it, super punchy yellow armor for the Baboons. Trust me, it's going to look even better once the rest of the colors get onto the model. Speaking of other colors, let's go ahead and get on with the rest of the model and the parts that people don't really care about. So that's going to be our shirts, belts, pants, any other miscellaneous little details. For the shirt, for the Baboons, I'm going to start with this blue-black from Pro Acryl. Just do a nice all-over base coat of that. Before moving into our highlight color for this, we're just going to be Dark Emerald, once again from Pro Acryl. I'll typically mix this in about 50-50 with our blue-black, and just hit the top bits of the shirt, any little raised areas that are going to be poking through, just as a nice, easy, basic highlight for this. With our shirt done, we're going to go ahead and move over to the pants, and for that we're going to do a base of Mechanicus Standard Gray. In addition to the pants, we're also going to do the wrappings on his hand, just to give it, once again, a little bit more differentiation, a little bit different color tones to his green skin, really going to stand out great. Next, moving on to the horns, teeth, skulls, anything like that that the orcs might have, and base coat for that is going to be Morghast Bone. Continuing the rapid fire through the bullshit details that nobody really cares about, we're going with Grim Black for the boots. And I would go ahead and make sure you do 2 coats of this, let the first one dry fully before going back and doing the second one, or else it'll just kind of be like this kind of off blue gray color. Before we move on to Abaddon Black for our leather details, that's going to be the belt straps, as well as this kind of like straps on his chest. With our clothing done, that's going to move us into our metallics. Same as last time, we're going to use Dark Silver from Pro Acryl to base coat all of our metallic details. It's going to be like the little girdle that he's got, blades, and the majority of his power axe. And to break up our metallics, we're going to switch over to a copper from Pro Acryl just to handle the other little miscellaneous attachments and metal bits. And here's where we are before we get into the shading of the majority of the body of our model here. Always surprises me how good a model will look after a wash goes on it. They always say Nuln Oil is kind of the miracle cure-all for bad models, and I gotta say, it makes bad models look great, and it makes great models look even better. Just do a nice standard wash of the Nuln Oil over the clothing details, over the metallics, over the boots, belts, all that good stuff. And to shade our hand wrap on the axe as well as our horns, we're going to use a ruddy fur speed paint mixed about 4-to-1 with water. For our pants, we're going to use a Mechanicum Standard Gray and Gray Sear mix 50-50. Water it down about 2 parts water to about 1 part paint, and just go ahead and take this over your raised edges of the pants, just to give it a little bit more differentiation and a little bit of a highlight. Now's the part that's going to differentiate and define our metallics, as well as give a little bit more beat up detail to them and our yellow armor. For that, we're going to take Pro Acryl Silver, get our most beat up brush. I have this old synthetic one that I've used this for forever. The little hairs are sticking out on the end, and we're going to treat it similar to a dry brush. Get a little bit on the tips, and then just wipe a lot of it off. I typically will use a paper towel for this just to dry it out even more, and just do light streaks going in one direction across the surface. This can allow for tiny little micro scratches like you would see in metallics, just nice and easy. It gives it a really realistic weathered look. And there's our model. Last thing to do is going to be to actually complete the base, but already we are looking great, super well defined. For the base, we're going to use AK Terrain, dry ground, and just kind of slop it on there. Want to leave a little bit of areas in the cork that are exposed and so seem a little bit rocky to the naked eye. That way we can really nail our kind of desert rocky base. Now that we have our basing putty down, I would give this probably about 45 minutes to an hour to fully dry and get done before you move on to the next step. Which for the rocks, we're going to use Doombull Brown, nice base coat of it, simple, nice and easy. Now that we have the rocks defined and we've waited for our basing putty to dry, we're going to go with our dark yellow ochre pigments from Vallejo. Just kind of put it on the tip of your large brush and then just kind of jab it around. It'll go and flow into the recesses. Want to make sure that you get a little bit onto the bottom corners of the model. So for this, it's going to be the boots. It's going to be that little bit of plates that are hanging down just to kind of blend it into the base. Next one is going to be a dark umber brown from Vallejo Pigments. Targeting around the rocks, just kind of differentiates the kind of dusty look and blends the rocks into the environment. And final step, get whatever cheapo black you have and do a nice black base rim to wrap our model up. And there we go, everybody. That is a completed Bad Moon Ork for Warhammer 40,000. This paint job really goes along with what I intend for this channel of really easy to follow recipes that end up with great looking results. This was about a 2-hour paint job, and realistically, as long as you have a brush, a dry brush, and a sponge, you can recreate it. Nothing really skillful here, nothing that is insane to do, just a nice, easy to follow paint scheme. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the day. Be sure to like and subscribe if you liked what you saw today. Love to continue to build out the community. Put your comments down below for what you'd like to see next. I think the next guide that I'm planning is an Ork War Boss in Mega Armor, once again in Bad Moon scheme, to show off that we can reuse the existing techniques that we used in this one to make a great looking hero model. Alright everybody, I will catch you all in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.